Well, it's cold and flu season, and that's caused by bacteria and viruses. And I know most of us are really trying to maintain our health in order to avoid, contracting a bacteria or virus. So we're trying to keep our immune system up. And I know a lot of people out there have talked about oils, and maybe you've never had the opportunity to try it, or you want to know if you'd even use it if you bought some. So, in order to contribute to friends or family, and they would like to try a diffuser with some oils, I put a kit together. And if you are interested in trying that out, you're completely welcome. I'd love to bring that over for you. So, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Young Living oils because they're the oils that I've put in the kit. And basically, Young Living grows all their own plants, and they either have their own farms or they lease out farmland, but they have their own methodologies that they subscribe to and promise to maintain. So they call that their seed to seal promise. So basically what that means is, the seeds are professionally selected by agronomists, and they are, grown in usually native habitats, and they use land that's not treated by pesticides or chemical fertilizers. So basically, I'd like to say it's organic, although getting that seal, and I'm not even sure it's offered for essential oils, but it's pretty pricey. So they actually advertise that as a seed to seal promise. And the soils that they use are their own compost materials. So whatever's left over at their farms goes into creating new soils. And then those seeds that they've selected are replanted, the plants grow, and then they are harvested at a very specific time when the oil content in those cells are just perfect. And, that's tested regularly. It's based on the season, temperature, as you can imagine, and amount of water and amount of sun that those plants have received. All right, so once the plants are grown and they harvest, they have to extract those oils, and they use a distillation process. And, if you've taken like high school chemistry or college chemistry, maybe even use it at work, but that process would entail taking the plant material, whether it's stems, leaves, roots, or flowers, or even the fruit, that is placed in a chamber. And you know what? I think I have a picture, so let me grab it. Actually, in this book, they they actually show, kind of cool, they show basically what you might have seen in like high school chemistry here, versus, what the actual distillation tank really looks like. So basically they take the plant material, they put it into a chamber that is heated, and water, a little bit of water, I guess, is added. And that, based on the temperature, that water, along with some of the oils that are lighter, that contain the terpenes, actually volatilizes, and then it's funneled out to a condenser, so it's cooled, and there the water and the oil separate. And what they'll do is they take out that oil that goes into those cute little essential oil bottles, and then the water, I don't know if they show that here, the water is then used as like a floral bath at some of their farms. You can actually go there as a vacation and hang out and watch the process to make essential oils. But they do put those floral waters into their like hot tubs. So I thought that was really kind of a efficient use of material. All right, so for those of you that want to borrow the kit, I would like to show you a couple of things that are in the kit so you can use this efficiently. And the first thing I'd like to cover is how to use one of their diffusers. I've got this one right here. And then explain a couple of the oils that I put into the kit, and I actually glued them to this little poster of antiviral essential oils, but that doesn't come from from Young Living. You know, I just really actually took it off the internet, but I like it because it specifically targets antivirals. And then I included not only the bottles that you can use for your diffuser, but also these are little roller bottles, and they're super cute, that I made. And I use them during cold season because some of them are just really good decongestants. So I'd roll it under my nose, or, you know, in areas that are conducive to healing and making you feel better. All right, and then the last thing is I want to show you how to find information about each of these oils. So let's start with the diffuser. And I just wanted to point out that when you look inside the diffuser, there is a water fill line, so it's a little red thing, so you don't want to go above that. And then there's that little, I think they call it an ultrasonic plate. It's a vibrating plate, and it vibrates at an incredible frequency, like no, I didn't memorize it, but it's actually, this does have like a little book, and I actually read it this time, so I'm a little bit more efficient in explaining it. But it says 1.7 million vibrations per second. Isn't that amazing? So by doing that, of course, the oils are able to volatilize. This doesn't heat the water in the oil. It just vibrates at such a great frequency that it releases those oils, you know, into your air. All right, so I'm just going to use some water, and I am going to pour the water into that little red water indicator line. Whenever you see it. A little bit too much. So that turns out to be, I think I had 150 milliliters. There's 250 milliliters in a cup, so 3/4 of a cup. I think I put in 175 milliliters of water. And then I'm going to take, this one's called Raven, and I like this. I don't love the smell of it. Some people do, but it is an antiviral oil, and I will explain how antivirals work based on some of the research that I've read. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff out there, but you know, I like it. I don't love it. So I usually use 2 drops. You can use 1, and you don't necessarily have to detect it because those molecules still can bind to cell membranes and create this cascade of feel-good reactions inside your cells. So, you know, I'm just going to start with 2 drops, and I want to show you how these little bottles work. So if you look at the tippy top, there's kind of like a big nipple there. I'm talking about this ring, you know, this inner ring. And then along the top of that ring, and I know you can't see it, and it's in line with the title of the oil, usually. Sometimes I take my lids off. There is a little teeny tiny orifice. It's about the size of a tip of a pen. And if you tilt the bottle about, I guess, 120 degrees, you see that 1 drop that came out? I'm going to do 2. Oh, see, I got 3. So you really have to practice at this. Some of these oils are thinner than others. Like this happens to be a thin oil. And this comes from the plant material, like the leaves. And I'm going to show you where you find that information. But there's other oils like frankincense. You know, we've all heard of frankincense just from the Bible. And that was one of the oils that, you know, they used to anoint the baby Jesus. But though that oil comes from a tree, and that tends to be, you know, think of sap inside of a tree. It's pretty thick. So it is a thicker oil, and sometimes they're harder to get out. So you have to wait a while, or you might get frustrated enough and say, hey, I'm going to open this up and add a little coconut oil. But some are thicker than others. Okay, and then another one that I put in here is called Power. And again, I did the same thing, 2 drops, hold it at about 120 degrees. And I also gave you my favorite flagship, Young Living flagship oil called Thieves. And Thieves is an interesting oil because it has an interesting history. It was named for some stories from, 15th century grave robbers during the bubonic plague that would go into these, graveyards and dig up the bodies of the dead and grab all their clothing and whatever belongings they had. But before they would do that, they would anoint themselves with cinnamon bark and lemon and rosemary and eucalyptus and clove. All of those oils are antimicrobial, and that's what's contained in Thieves. It's like the perfect blend, and I love this oil. I use it. This is my morning ritual. I fill up my diffusers, and I do have 3 of them in my great room, and I have one in here. Yeah, so I fill up my diffusers, and then I take a drop of this, a drop of lemon, and then I take also a drop of Digest, which is not in your kit, but it's a really nice tummy easer. It makes my stomach feel good. If you ever have a stomach ache, that's a good oil to rub on your stomach. It works like magic. And it gets your digestive processes going. It has oils in it that you're like, ooh, you're going to eat those? But once you feel the effects, you grow an affinity to those. You start to really like them. So that's my morning ritual. And then this is one of the oils that I diffuse too. I also have a Thieves toothpaste, and I've got Thieves mouthwash, and I have my Thieves hand soap. So these are at every sink in my house, and I've just put them in my motorhome too. So Thieves has some great products, and then I didn't bring it in here, but I've got Thieves makes it cleaner too, and you just dilute it, and I put it in a brown glass bottle, and that's what I walk around the house with. I touch up my floors with it. I use it on all my kitchen counters, even my kitchen sink, which, look, I love it because I have a granite sink, and it really keeps the color and keeps it shiny. It looks new. So I love all the Thieves products, and it's safe for my little puppy. He's not a puppy, but I call him my puppy. All right, so let me talk a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to leave the diffuser there, and then I'll turn it on after I tell you about the little book I put in the kit. So this is called the Pocket Reference, and it has every one of the oils, every one of the products, all the research that's behind these oils, and a lot of information on how these oils work, like in comparison to maybe some of the traditional things you're using. That is always a head scratcher when you look at the ingredients, which they're not legally responsible to show you. And it's, once you take a dive into our chemical manufacturing and how many chemicals are released in our lives every single day. I think I heard the last piece of data I heard was like there's 237 pounds of chemicals that each individual person on this earth is exposed to every day. 237 pounds. But then you think about it. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? And, what do you put on your body all day long? What are you breathing? What are you eating? What are you drinking? It's overwhelming, but it's a journey, and it's my journey. I love looking that stuff up and understanding it and trying to make better decisions for my life and for my family's life. Anyway, so this Pocket Reference has, in chapter 4, has an alphabetical listing of all Young Living oils that are single blends. So the only one I've mentioned so far, I think, was the tea tree oil. I've also got peppermint here and a couple others that are single oils. But the ones that I'm showing you for the diffuser that I've put in are all blends. So I marked the pages of the oils that I've given you. So if you don't want to look through it, you don't have to. And let me start with, I'm going to start with my blends first, because that's the ones I've shown you. And the first one, in alphabetical order, is the Immu Power. Sounds like immunity, right? So, you know, it's right here with the little blue thing there. It says Immu Power. And they give you like a little blurb about how it, you know, what is the therapeutic effects. It strengthens your immunity. It aids in DNA repair in your cells. And it's strongly antiseptic and anti-infectious. Sounds like a good thing to diffuse, right? It gives you the ingredients. So all the single oils that are in here are hyssop, mountain savory, cistus, ravensara. And I actually have that out because I just bought it. And this is one of the antiviral oils. So I was right on board with that. I'm like, okay, I want that. And frankincense, oregano, and clove, and cumin, and another oil called Dorado Azul, hardened blue. All right, and then it tells you how you can use it. So this one says directions for the aromatic, so how to diffuse it. Excuse me. And then topical, it says dilute 1 drop with 4 drops of V6, well, or any other carrier oil. So on these little bottles that I included on the rollers, like this one's tea tree, and I just labeled it, I put, the tea tree was a 1-to-1 dilution, even though for me, and I think I mentioned it, maybe not, that I get a little patch of eczema on the back of my scalp, and sometimes it gets really itchy. Ever since I retired, I noticed I wasn't getting that anymore, but every once in a while it flares up. And I'll just take the tea tree, what's called neat, so I don't even dilute it. And if I made myself a little roller bottle like this, maybe I would use it, and I probably should. But I would roll it on the back of my scalp, and the itching goes away immediately. And I like to think it's healing. And I think I even have tea tree. Tea tree is a single oil, and I think I have that marked in this book, and you could certainly look it up. But it is a very soothing oil, great for acne too. So I just wanted to point out what was in this book. So we have the Power, I'm sorry, and the Thieves, which again, I love that oil. It smells amazing, tastes amazing, and I drink it and put it on and diffuse it every day. And then the Raven is also in here, Raven and RC. And Raven is also an antiviral. And it contains that ravensara. This is not in the kit. I just bought it, but I really like it. And it is in the Raven blend. So I would definitely recommend, you know, using that as an antiviral. All right, so I think that's all I wanted to say about this book, and it is in the kit. And let's turn on, actually, let me go over these little single oils really quick, and then we'll turn on the diffuser. So on the single oils, I already mentioned I gave you tea tree, I gave you eucalyptus, and this says, eucalyptus is a natural remedy for stubborn cough, sinus blockage, bronchitis, and it effectively loosens up mucus. So the way I would use it, and again, they're cute little teeny tiny rollers. For those of you that have never seen a roller, they look like that. And you just, you know, roll it on a body part. And again, this is diluted 1-to-1, and I used the ratio that was in the Life Science book, and I diluted it with coconut oil. So, I mean, you can still smell it. It smells wonderful, but it is diluted down a little bit. All right. The next one I think I put in there is pine. And for pine, it says fast and fresh way to help clear out blocked nasal passages. So in that case, I might even roll a little bit under my nose. When I go on a plane, I always have my thieves. I have a thieves roller. I roll my wrists, so it penetrates through my circulatory system. And then I roll it under my nose. I roll it on those little lumpy bones that are right behind your ears. You can feel them right behind your earlobes. And that's called your mastoid process. And in there is a lot of spongy bone. It looks like a sponge. And there is plenty of space for little microbes to live. So I would roll it on my mastoid process area as an antimicrobial. And my and then even my my neck, where my part of my immune system is, my lymph nodes. That's what I was trying to think of. Part of the lymphatic system, where your white blood cells hang out and act as your little migra that fight things that are coming through that shouldn't be there. Okay. All right, next one I put on here is peppermint. I love peppermint. It is great as a digestive aid, and earlier I mentioned digize that I put in my water. Well, peppermint is one of the ingredients in there. And here it says it's loaded with antiviral and antiseptic properties that clear your air passages and help treat your cough. So, you might want to smell it, roll it on your neck, roll it on your wrists, and even roll it behind your ears. And again, in chapter 4, where you have your single oils, you'll find peppermint, and you can read up on that. And the very last one I have is clove. And here it says clove essential oil fights infection and stimulates the immune system. And again, I'd roll it similarly, depending on what your symptoms are. I think it smells wonderful. This is one of the ingredients in thieves too. All right, so I think I've covered everything. I want to turn on the diffuser so you can see how it works. And there is a lid to the diffuser. There's 2 little lids. One is an air vent, and one diffuses the actual water and oils. And then this goes on top, and I'll put the cord in the back. It fits on anyway. And there's 2 buttons down here. So the one on the left turns it on, and the light automatically goes on. And I don't know if against the TV, you can probably see the flow of diffusing oils and evaporating water. I think I can see it a little bit. All right, and then if you want to change your lighting, there's the lighting button is on the right, and I think there's like 11 different settings. This one's kind of a flicker candly setting. Another flicker in orange. There's like a brighter orange, a golden color. All these colors are my colors. I don't have this actual diffuser just because gray is not my color, white is not my color. I did break down and get one diffuser, not in my color. I don't know if you could see that little owl over there. I left the lights on. It works similar to this with the lighting. I love that little owl. But what I did was I feathered the wings just to bring in the brown tones. And who knows, maybe I'll do some more feathering, even though it would disrupt the light. Okay, so yeah, I think there's 11 different settings on here. And one of them just cycles through all the colors. I think you can even hold it for 3 seconds and it would just go off. And the same with the diffuser itself. And you can actually, when you hit this one time, you get a high rate of diffusion. The second time it's lower. And then the third time, I think, gives you an intermittent diffusion, release. But, if you're going to do this at night, like I diffuse at night, I always have it on intermittent. And it'll last me about 10 hours. And I think when you look at this, you know, this will be in the box. If you look at this little booklet, it tells you how long it will diffuse for, you know, given, you know, the setting that you choose. All right, so I wanted to mention one last thing, that from what I've read and what I understand, these oils that are antibacterial, they'll act on the cell wall of the bacteria, and they'll break that cell wall and the bacteria can't survive. With viruses, they're a little different, and you probably know that they hijack your cells. Viruses aren't alive. They will stick to your cell. They have this little protein. You've seen pictures now, coronavirus all over the place. Same with the AIDS virus. They have these little protein extensions from their coat, and they fit perfectly in receptors on our cell membranes. And, you know, it might be just specific to respiratory cells. It might be specific to a white blood cell like AIDS, or a liver cell. So they're very, very specific. And once they latch on, they open up their little walls of protein, and they insert their genetic material into yours, into ours. And maybe you've heard that coronavirus is an RNA virus. That's the kind of material it is. So it actually has this mechanism that it can reverse its progression RNA backwards to DNA. And once it's DNA, it can get into our chromosomes. And now our machinery reproduces those viruses. And those, once they're reproduced, now we've got a bunch of baby viruses in our cell, they need to get out. How do they do it? They get a key. And that key, in scientific terms, is an enzyme. And it opens up the cell membrane, and it allows the baby viruses to release. So some of these oils are known to block that key from getting in and opening up your cells. So it might kill that one cell, but it's not going to kill all your cells, because once they get out, they attack other cells and now they die. All right, so hopefully that was all helpful. And if you're interested in my little kit, you're totally welcome. And yeah, if you have anything you want to share, let me know. All right, thanks for listening.